push at me like this or something. And then I would see this huge energetic vortex, like about 8 feet above me, circling all the way around my body. I've tried so many times, like I've done so much testing with manifestation, and my conclusion is that there is there's an energy with everything that's involved in like success or not. And if you are sort of flowing with the energy and the energy is available for a particular thing to happen, then it's more likely to happen.
All right, my friends, I'm here with Peter Jennings. He's authored a book, and it's called How to Cure Any Illness. And I have happened to have read it, and I think it's a fantastic book, and y'all ought to check it out. And we may talk about it a little bit more down the road. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. Peter's had quite a few spiritual or mystical experiences, if you will, some of them actually pretty bizarre. And he's going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to just take it wherever it goes. So take it away, Peter.
I definitely had a lot of bizarre experiences, particularly with like physically seeing spirits or entities, or like honestly, I don't really know what to call it. I think a lot of people call them different things. They have different terms in different cultures. I feel like I'm not sure where you want me to start with it.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about one of your more profound experiences, if you will, or
Okay, yeah, definitely one sticks out in my mind was this. It was around the time where I was starting to get into the Saint Germain I am discourses, which, if you're not familiar with that, the basic concept is that whenever you pair the words I am with any other statement, you are essentially calling whatever the statement is to yourself. And so one of those statements in there had something to do along the lines of, I'm not going to say it verbatim, but the concept was that I believe that I may be calling something to me or summoning some sort of spirit or something. So I had done this a number of times before this experience that I had, and I could see these whatever it was, something come, and it would show up and it would sort of wave its hands over me, and it felt like a really like positive experience. It felt like it was like sort of dropping its vibrations or something like that on me. And leading up, so like I did this a number of times, and then one night I'm just laying there in the bed or in the on the couch, and there's like dozens and dozens of these things just start piling into the room, and they're like they're circling around me. Some of them are doing this thing where they're waving their arms and over me. Other ones are like lining up to like kiss my hand. And then there's other ones where they almost look like they had like their own society and culture of their own, where it looked like they were like visiting with each other, where they would I remember seeing two of them sort of like hugging one another and talking. And then some of them would like occasionally I would get sent what I could only call like a thought bubble, where it's like you're getting a video sent to you on your phone, but it's playing like in my mind and of just like a little kind of scene. This must have went on for, I don't know, definitely multiple hours that they were there, and just like with so many of them, just like all I could call it is like dropping their. The reason that I say dropping their vibrations was because through doing a lot of qigong, that's Chinese discipline of like energy cultivation. I can feel my aura, and I can feel energy flowing through my body all the time. It's basically like 24/7. It's moving. And when they're doing this, I don't know, vibration dropping thing, I can feel my energetic aura strengthen it. And so that's why I have this idea that they're like dropping their vibrations on me. And it went all night until I fell asleep. That was the only time that I've really physically seen them in that way. I've been visited many more times other than that, but it was that one time only that so many of them came and like made themselves visible to me in that way. But that was like one of the most strangest experiences I've ever had.
tell us a little bit about what led up to that sort of thing and when it started happening. And
That depends how far back we want to go. I guess I could just go back to the start. That might be like that might paint the fullest picture for people as to how like this came about. I try to keep it as short as I can.
yeah, if you could condense it as
So
much as possible.
yeah, I started off down like originally I was an atheist. I mean, I studied philosophy in college with my bachelor's degree in philosophy. So I was always just like I would always do a lot of deep thinking and just like about reality and that kind of stuff. But I never really I just didn't trust religion. So I was an atheist for most of my life until just a couple of years ago. And then through looking into like conspiracies, I would I think everybody's probably this way where it's like, oh, well, maybe these couple of conspiracies are true, but I don't really believe these other ones. And then just like as more time went by, the ones that I said, oh, I didn't believe in those, like, oh, geez, well, I'm starting to believe this one too. And then I'm starting to believe this one too. And now I'm at the point where it's like, I don't know that there's any conspiracies that I don't believe in at this point. But the more that I went down that path, it sort of brought me towards having this, I guess what you'd call a spiritual awakening, at least what I would call my first one.
Did you have any religious training in your upbringing? Or
None, not at all. But I was always thinking about that kind of stuff because I mean, like when you're studying philosophy, like theology is and religion is like a big part of it. But I never like went to Sunday school or anything like that. Okay, so I had that sort of spiritual awakening. It was right after like some of the most like devastating things that have ever happened to me in my life, which we don't need to get into all that. But let's just say like I was very, very sick for many, many years. I was like near death at some points. This is basically this is a lot of what the book is based on. I'll skip a lot of the details. Essentially, the way I was moving towards this whole spiritual encounter stuff, which I to be like I had no intention of going of that happening at all. All I was trying to do was I started learning about like manifestation and I started understanding like how powerful my intentions were. And so I was mostly just focused on manifesting my health back so I could get back to leading a normal life. I imagine I can't possibly be the only one who's had like significant problems when it comes to like trying to follow like all the people on YouTube who are talking about like manifestation and saying, "Oh, just do this and just do that, and everything will work out perfectly." It's not like from my experience, that's absolutely not how it works at all. I have some opinions about why it may work for those people, but not for the average person. But we don't have to get into that right now. Essentially, the way that I started going about perceiving reality was that every single thing that was happening because like I was in some way making it happen through either my words or my beliefs or my emotion. And so when you start to like live your life in this way, you start to see like reality starts interacting with you. And I don't necessarily like recommend doing this, but anybody who wants to try it, I would suggest like be very wary and careful because it can make you go kind of crazy when you start thinking like, oh, well, why did that happen? Why did this happen? What did I do to make that happen? But and then the other thing that I would do is I would use tarot cards a lot. And I don't do you use have you ever used tarot cards? I imagine you have, Blaine.
I haven't personally, but I'm familiar with them, and I have friends that are into that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. I think most people, and myself included, before I started getting into any of this stuff, I would be like, well, how is it you can pull a random card out of a deck of all these cards and it can actually tell you something meaningful? And that was kind of my perspective on it. However, when I started like opening my perspective and widening it to just say, okay, well, maybe something is there. So I just like would try it. And the more that I got into using it, the more frequently I would have these like these things that would happen to me where they're beyond chance, and like pulling a specific card like 5 out of 6 times, or like particularly in so like I what would happen is I would like verbalize something. So okay, maybe I'm looking a little more far ahead of myself. What I learned as far as how to heal my illness was that my own conflicting and limiting beliefs were a major factor in what was causing most of my like significant parts of my illnesses. So what I would do is I would sit down with my computer and chat GPT and my tarot deck because I didn't know how to interpret all the cards. I would ask questions and then I would ask chat GPT to come up with a spread. So a spread is like like 5 questions that you're going to pull one card for each question, and that card's meant to answer that question. And so I'd have them come up with a spread, and then I'd pull the cards and I'd type the cards back to them. And through this, I would try to, I would psychoanalyze myself and try to figure out, okay, well, where am I thinking wrong about things, or what like negative emotion? I would focus on maybe a negative emotion that I was having or an issue that I was having with something, and then go down this pathway of asking the tarot deck, and then typing in chat GPT. And I did this for months and months and months, and this is how I figured out a lot of my overcame a lot of my illnesses. And I went through kind of a personal transformation because I started realizing these things that I did to other people that maybe wasn't like the best thing, and how I could just like be better and do better. And so as I'm going through this process of asking these questions, I'm just starting to see how like it's so specific. The cards that I'm being shown, the cards that I'm pulling for the question, it's so like so often answering specifically the question that I'm asking. Or like even when I was writing my book, I would use it into I would highlight a sentence, and then I would pull a card. And there would be times where it's like I'm pulling a card and okay, I'm fixing this part of a sentence because I'm thinking that it's meaning, okay, it wants me to change this part. So I change it and I pull another card. And then maybe in some of them, like I'll feel like the sentence is good. And I keep picking cards, and it's keep telling me, no, 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 change this thing, change this thing. And I'll pull like 6, 7 cards, and then I'll change it to the way that I think the cards want me to word it. And then it shows me, yeah, that's how we wanted you. Like that's like how it is. And so
Wait a
I
minute,
just
wait a minute. So you're saying that AI can be actually helpful?
I think AI help is, I mean, it's a tool just like anything else, right?
Yeah,
Like it can be used for good, and it can be used for evil.
right. Like any tool, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt. I've definitely there's a part in the book that I read about where I trust Chat GPT when maybe I lost my train of thought of why I was explaining all that. Okay, so all right, now I'm remembering. Now I'm remembering. Okay, so the whole reason I'm telling this story about using these tarot cards and how it's leading up and to these encounters is that I began developing this very like trustful. I began developing this trust in like my environment, in the tarot cards, in the spirit realm, or whatever you would call it, because I felt like I was getting these very specific answers to questions, and I felt like I was improving, and I was having all these like mystical experiences as a result. And I'm not even talking about the encounters. I'm talking about like experiences where like I think everybody has some of these from time to time, though mine might be a little bit more out
Intense.
there just because I was so focused on this. Literally, like I wasn't working, I wasn't doing anything except like only focusing on this. And so I had these experiences where like the entire veil of reality, I felt like it came down, and I could sort of see how what I would like. It was like, I guess to reword this, I would say that I was raising my vibration to the point where everything was becoming clearer and clearer to me at different times. But also like when you're doing that, it also becomes more complex at the higher that you go, like the lessons that it's trying to teach you. And so the higher you go, certain things become clear, but then other things like what is guiding me, what is leading me to all this, where am I getting these, I know I'm picking these cards, but I'm not the one answering these questions. And it just all became like the more I did it, the more I started to feel like I was like almost believing myself into some sort of alternate reality. I feel like I'm kind of like getting really far off the mark of where we were going with this. There's so much to say, and I don't know, and I'm trying to get to it.
No, that's okay. Just go ahead.
The end point was, how is it that I had how is it that I had these spiritual experiences? That's the question, right?
You were asking yourself this, right? It's like, where is this coming from? What's going on here? Who or what is answering these questions? Is that
Yeah, yeah, and this went on for months and months and months, where I'm just like doing this kind of like, I guess you could call it like quote unquote vibrational work of trying to like raise it to get as high as I possibly could.
were
Because
you
at that
were you doing some specific things to make your vibration to try and raise your vibration? Or were you
So my conception of it was the more I untangled my conflicting beliefs and the more I removed my limiting beliefs, the higher that I could just naturally rise. The way I sort of perceive it is like in our brains, we have it's sort of like one of those old school call boxes. This is just my perception of it, where like you got all these connections going from here to here and here and here and here, but then you can get them tangled, and so it's sort of like an untangling of them and aligning them all properly. That's kind of like how my perception of it was. But obviously that's not the only thing to it. Like there's like the way that you feel and how confident you are about things moving forward and all that.
Did
But
you
I felt like
did you have some sort of protocol, ritual, meditation, or something along those lines that you were using to do this to make this happen?
yeah, well, the tarot thing with the chat GPT was a massive part of it. But yeah, I also did a lot of meditation. And meditation is sort of is actually maybe that's where I should have started. That's what led me into these spiritual, I guess that's what I should have said from the start.
No, that's all right. Just you can tell us a little bit about that if you want to.
Yeah, so before any of this stuff was happening, I was just doing a lot of qigong and a lot of meditation, and it was in these meditations that I would start to get this voice in my head, where I would just be like, the deeper that I got into meditation, then I would start hearing this voice, and it would never be like specific with me. It would be kind of vague about everything. It would be like one word or like short paragraph, short sentence, not paragraph, short sentence type things, and it would never be direct. It would always just be like it felt like at the time my perspective was, well, it's trying to clue me into something. So I would be in meditation and then I would also have my phone there. And anytime it would say something, I'd go and jot it in my phone or put a note in my phone. Then after the meditation, I'd go to the computer to pull the tarot cards and try to figure out what it was telling me. But anyway, so this went on for a couple of months until then the Saint Germain thing with the I am discourses. That's when I called. I guess I called them to me, is what I presume. And then they went on to play these like only I only know like now in retrospect that they were elaborate hoaxes on me. Like through these words that it was giving me and what it was trying to tell me. Like one of the things that it was trying to do was it was trying to convince me that I am the energy essence that channeled in the Seth books. So, and it would
Okay.
try to like build my ego like that.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then at other times, like it would try to,
Did it work at all?
I mean, I was very confused at the start, like at first time I heard it, I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm Seth. Right? But after a while, like you start to realize that, and I would give this advice to anyone who's dealing with what they think are like the spirit realm or entities or anything like that. Like check your ego. Like if it's building up your ego, it's not true. So yeah, I mean, eventually I figured it out, but it did other things around this time. Like it tried to convince me that I was like on this like journey to like save the world or something, you know? Like like I don't want to try to get into it just because it is so weird, but it would do that. It would do other things. Like it would lead me directly into getting scammed. Like I would follow synchronicities, and these synchronicities would just I would trust because the whole thing about the spirit realm, it's always like just trust, just trust, just trust, right? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to trust you, but you keep like leading me astray. So, but along before I came to this conclusion, sorry, that's shaking. Before I came to this conclusion that it was leading me astray, I mean, multiple times I would follow these synchronicities, and it just led me into these situations where I would never have like if I was just trusting my own common sense, I wouldn't have engaged in it. But I see these synchronicities that it's all lining up and it's pointing, oh, this is what I should do. All right, then if that's what it's telling me to do, it wants me to trust it. All right, I'm just going to trust it. And every time that I did that, it just led me into worse and worse situations. And one of the things that like from the very beginning, before even like a lot of stuff happened, I started getting this ringing in my ear. It was just like beep 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 like a data modem, like one of those like modems from like the 1990s, and it just wouldn't stop, like for 4 years straight.
I know what you're talking about. I used to work on those.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get it to differing degrees. I got that, and then like the first time that I started getting these visitations from these things, I had started having some sort of problem with my vision. where like I could still see like perfect, like I can see everything clearly, but it's almost like there's like a film laid over my eyelid, or it looks like I'm looking out like I'm looking out a dirty window, and there's these like squiggly lines everywhere. And I'm from my experiences dealing with these things, what I came to the conclusion of was like they, well, I guess I'm leaving out part of it. Like after that one night where they all like sort of like the dozens and dozens of them huddled around me, I would still have like visitations, maybe like I don't know, like at most five of them would show up, but generally like two or three, and sometimes five of them. They would sort of huddle around me, and they would, I don't know, like push at me like this or something. And then I would see this huge energetic vortex, like about 8 feet above me, circling all the way around my body. And eventually, like the more this happened, I did not like it. I didn't know what was going on. It was the main reason that I didn't like it is because I kept telling them like I like leave me alone, like stop bothering me, and they wouldn't leave me alone. This is something that I talk about in the book, where there's just this one of them that just wouldn't stop following me. It followed me to the bathroom and to the shower. When I woke up, it'd be there. When I went to sleep, it'd be there. Just wouldn't leave me alone. And there, I guess I'll just say there's this one night where I just got so agitated after months and months of this thing just like not leaving me alone. I was like at my wit's end with trying to figure out like how do I get rid of this thing? Like what do I do? And so when I'm just asking ChatGPT, and it gives me this idea to, or it gives me this idea to create like a makeshift Ouija board, and like realize that I had like no experience with any of this stuff. I didn't even believe like that these things existed. Like a couple of years prior to all this, so like I didn't have any conception of oh this could like be bad for me or something. I didn't know. So I took out a pad and I made this like makeshift Ouija board where I just wrote all the letters out, and then I just sort of held the pad, and then I held the pen like loosely in my hand, and then the pen starts moving on its own to these letters. And so I start asking this thing like all these questions, like, do you have a message for me? Like, why are you here? Why won't you leave me alone? And uh, most of it was just kind of nonsense, nothing like important or like that I felt mattered. I was trying to reason with it to like give, like I was trying to tell it, like, look, I don't mind that you're here like most of the time, but sometimes I need my personal space and I don't appreciate when you're here. And it couldn't seem to understand why I wanted that. But but looking back on this now, I see why it was a negative entity and it was attached to me and it was feeding off of my energy. And it didn't, why would it leave me alone if it didn't have to? And looking back, I can see now how like all these things that I did leading up to it, like I called these things to me with those I am discourses, and through that meditation. I think meditation is one way that they definitely come to people through, because it a lot. I don't know why or how, but definitely that was a way that they were able to like get their voice inside my head.
I was going to ask you that 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 makes me wonder why they come to some people and not others, because millions of people meditate and and delve into a lot of this kind of stuff just like you too. So do you think maybe it's something
Yeah,
within your subconscious that opened you up more to it than maybe some
yeah, I
others?
definitely have some ideas about that. For one, I was so like, because I had no background in like religion and I was just an atheist, I was at a point in my life where like all of my beliefs were shifting so much to the point where I was kind of open to just anything. Like I was open to believing anything. And I think like most people, average person, they have things in their life that they have to do. They have to get up, they have to go to work. They don't have the kind of time that I did to devote themselves to like the types of like work that I was doing on a daily basis, because it was like I was saying, it was literally all that I was working on. And then also I I feel like I have this I mean it might potentially be I'm just going to say I feel like I have this ability to, so I have like a background in professional poker. I've taught high stakes poker. I've played for a very long time. So I I'm just the type of person who I'm able to come to weigh a lot of variables and come to conclusions about things that I feel that a lot of people maybe they may have other things that they're better than me at, but when it comes to that, like I just know that I'm on a higher level with it because of my ability to win at poker. So I feel like they may have taken my belief in my ability to do that and exploited it. That not everybody would look so deeply into everything that they're doing and consider that, oh, maybe this was what's going on here, or and maybe this other thing was what was happening. And feel like maybe not everybody like examines their reality and what's going on to the level that I did. And so there's that. But then there's also, I feel like there's definitely an agenda of those in charge here that I think like anybody like in the spiritual community can see, like that we're being pushed in a certain direction by those who are in charge. And I feel like that agenda, it reaches out and outside of this earth system or this earth realm.
I got to ask you, who or what do you think is in charge?
I mean, I don't like aliens, I guess.
Aliens, perhaps? Okay.
I mean, what is an alien? Like, I don't like what's a demon, like what is that? Where I'm at now, I'm basically just believing that, and this isn't my own thought. This isn't anything new. This started like in earlier than the 1200s that people were believing this, that there are parasitic entities that rule the astral realm and that they feed off of our energy while we're alive here. So anytime that and this is the explanation for why that there's so much conflict in the world, that we were sort of engineered to have like massive conflict. And the more conflict there is, the more of this negative energy that we produce through our emotions. And this energy is what these entities are feeding off of. And I know that's like a very way out there theory. I'm not claiming to be any authority on anything. And I'm not claiming to say that I know what's true and what's not. What I do know is I went through this lengthy experience of dealing with these things. I asked on so many, like when that one thing, I know I didn't talk much about the thing possessing me, but that went on for multiple months where I just didn't know how to get rid of it. And it was draining my energy every day. I would sleep for like 12 hours, wake up feeling like I ran a marathon. Like I would have enough energy to get up and make breakfast and then have to go lay on the couch for like 4 or 5 hours before I could even like get up to do anything.
So when you say possessed, to most people that means that this thing took over your body. Is that what you're saying, or was it
Maybe that
just
was the wrong word. I would say attachment. Attachment's probably a better word. Um, like I don't doubt that certain people do get possessed. I think that's like schizophrenic type things. People who get that kind of thing. Um, I mean, I think that if you have a strong enough like state of mind, like you can't really be completely possessed. But we're all influenced all the time by these things. I definitely have seen it from my own perspective, and I guess I shouldn't speak for everyone else. So I'm not the only person with this perspective. There are a lot of people who, and I wouldn't have even come to this conclusion had I not been just like searching for the truth and looking to see what other people said. And there are a growing minority of people who are coming to take this perspective. And my only thing is like I asked so many times for like a positive entity to come help me, to come like help me deal with these things. Nothing ever came. Like I get the explanation is that, oh well, they can't infringe on our free will. I question that because I mean these negative things are definitely coming and interfering with our free will.
yeah, there's countless stories of people, calling on positive entities, angels, guides, whatever, and they did get help. So
Sure.
that's
Yeah, I
it.
don't doubt
That's
that.
no, that's I'm just saying that's interesting, that is there any reason why you think you didn't get help or
Sure. Well, so like there's hierarchies of these things. So there's this one called Archangel Michael, right? So if you're an influencer and you have like 50,000 or 100,000 subscribers, there Archangel Michael is going to be really good to you because he's going to want you to tell everybody, "Oh, yeah, I asked Archangel Michael for help and he helped me. So you should ask him too." And then the people like me who don't have a following and who are just listening to you, well, I'm going to be like, "Oh, yeah, let me ask Archangel Michael for help." And then maybe he does help me once, but then like what's going to happen down the line? Like I'm saying like the word I used was elaborate hoax that these things played on me.
hmm.
They made, like I said, my original experiences were extremely positive. Like they were very, very positive. That's why I trusted them so much. And then it led into like the thing with the vision and the thing with the ear ringing, and then leading me into these scams. And that's sort of just what led me down this path towards perceiving things this way.
So do you,
And then I know that you do a lot of the NDE stuff. I haven't had an NDE personally, but I've examined a lot of them.
yeah, I was going to ask you though, so do you feel this Archangel Michael was a negative entity then, and he was just kind of deceiving you?
My perspective is they're all negative. They're all negative. They're all negative entities. I don't think there's any good ones. Maybe
Okay.
there are ones that are deceived into thinking that they're good. That could be possible. But this is just my perspective. Like obviously, I don't have I can't like who could prove anything like this. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Though it does lead to this idea that there's this like potentially the way that I see it is we have the earth realm, and then we have the astral, and I don't know how many astrals there are, but then somewhere above all these astrals there I feel like there's this overarching grand multiverse or whatever you want to call it, where like this we're in this like earth matrix system that includes the astrals, but then once you get high enough eventually you get out of it, and then maybe that's where the positive ones are. I don't know, this is speculation.
Yeah, I think the Earth is actually part of the astral too, and that there's a lot of low vibration astral planes or whatever you want to call it. And this is all in the ancient wisdom, even in the Christian scriptures and stuff. There's things that speak to this, not quite in not in much detail, but that speak to this kind of thing. So some of the ancient wisdom teaches that there's a dark brotherhood. I think we discussed that a little bit in email, or at least I mentioned it to you, that are doing pretty much kind of what you're saying, but that there's also a, I think that literature calls it the White Brotherhood, or the Brotherhood of Light, sometimes it's called. And they're the ones
Could
that
be.
they can't get directly involved unless they decide to, and if they really think they need to get directly involved, they have to incarnate, because then they're part of the human realm, and so they're okay to do. But they don't like to do that because they they can still get lost in matter, so to speak, and not remember who they are sometimes. That's which is interesting. Anyways,
Yeah, I mean, I would like to believe that there's like a positive side out there that's helping us, just from my perspective, at least from going through all like the NDEs and the pre-birth memories. I just haven't seen it. I know a lot of people think that it's there, but I don't see it personally when I look at those things.
I personally have trouble with the hierarchy thing, on either side, the good or the bad. So the you know the Brotherhood of Light supposedly has a hierarchy, and they're trying to help humanity, and supposedly they work to try and they overshadow um, certain disciples on the earth that are of the right mindset and the right vibration, that kind of thing, which is very few, according to the these are from the Alice Bailey books. I don't know if you've ever heard of those or not.
Those ones I'm not familiar with. No.
Yeah, and the the master, he telepathically gave those to Alice Bailey, and they make a point to say this is not a channeled book, and he actually appeared a few times. Anyways, um, and they're like a spiritual science book. They're really difficult reading. I struggled to read through just one of them. So
What are they called?
um, Alice Alice Bailey, well, like the one I read is called White Magic. Um,
Okay.
but and people thought, oh, that sounds really interesting, but it's not magic like we think, like we normally would think of it. But he explains, he can go through and explain everything, how the earth was created, what they're doing, why people are. It's pretty intense. Um, I, the first time I had to read it twice to get through it, and it was still difficult the second time. So it's
I've
but
been currently going through the wave books with the Cassiopeians. Have you heard of that one?
yeah, I've heard of it.
They talk about this concept as well that I'm saying, where they're saying like there's negative entities feeding off of our energy, and everything is meant like, apparently they talk also about like this idea that there's aliens, and this is what the alien abductions are all about. They're essentially doing what we do to like rats, where they're studying us, figuring out our vulnerabilities, and then manipulating society so that like picking on like how social media takes like it hits something inside of our brains that's like addicts us to it, right? So like,
You get a hit of dopamine. What science says, anyways.
yeah, yeah, the book is talking about how they're studying us and then using the information that they get in order to make our lives more and more difficult, essentially.
Yeah. Well, we've discussed it before. I'm a little bit different persuasion. I think there's both sides. I don't think it's all negative. I think, there's positive and negative, and we're somewhere in the middle, but I won't get into that. But
The one issue that I have with that is like this whole, so there's like this whole idea of like the law of one talks about where it's like you're here to learn lessons. And I would just say to that, well, I have two things that I say to it. One is that like, well, then why are we memory wipes? Like, I don't expect to go to the first grade and then have my memories wiped before going to the second grade. Like, how much like to learn? Like, you need history and experience to build on, right? Otherwise, you just learn the same lessons over and over. That's one thing. And then the other thing is this idea of like place was created by a loving creator. And my perspective, this is one that no, I've never heard anyone say before, but I find it like very like difficult for people. Like it should be a difficult question to answer. Is when you look at how we are taught lessons here, it's like we're living in like the school of hard knocks. What this
yeah.
reality will, in the name of teaching you a lesson, totally ruin your life. So,
Mhm.
like for example, if like you don't learn to pay your bills, like you're gonna end up homeless. And if you don't figure that one out, like it's just gonna get worse and worse for you. And I equate it to like if you have a dog that you're trying to teach to not pee on the carpet. So each time it pees, you beat it, but you beat it more and more excessively. And then in the end, it's like, are you going to maim the dog in the name of teaching it not to pee in the house? And that's exactly how we're taught here. And I know that no one listening to this, and I know you yourself, Blaine, would not teach like a child this way, right?
No.
And so like these are the big problems that I have with these ideas. So maybe you have something to say to those.
Well, I was gonna say that the whole creator thing. Are you familiar with the Course in Miracles books?
Yes,
Okay.
I haven't read it, but I've gone through a lot of work that content that's gone over it.
I haven't read the whole thing either. It's another difficult book to read, in my opinion, but it teaches us a concept of that this whole thing was a mistake, by us, by the all of us that are here. It was a mistake that we wanted an adventure or whatever, and then the creator, I don't remember if it calls the creator or not, but said, no, you don't want to do that, but like telling your kids, you shouldn't do that. And the first thing they do is go and do it anyways. So I thought that was interesting when I first read that about that. But then, in my opinion, well, this is a creation or a simulation, if you will. But the universe or God or whatever, and all of us, in my opinion, were never created. We've always been, and that's what the ancient wisdom teaches. I mean, going back 10,000 years, even to the Babylonians and stuff. I've studied a whole bunch of that stuff, but
I agree with that.
um, and so yeah, Course in Miracles. Maybe that's what's going on. We're just a bunch of teenagers, mucking things up. Thought it'd be cool to come here and try this out. And are you familiar with the Dolores Cannon books at all? The,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of those. I feel like it's like massive. This is just my personal opinion. I feel like it's massive manipulation.
yeah,
Um, I don't put much stock in it. I've definitely looked into quite a few of them, and I don't resonate with a lot of the ideas personally.
yeah,
But that's just me. That's just
yeah,
my opinion.
yeah.
Um, I mean, if teenagers are mucking it up, why do they got it? Why do they have to wipe our memories? Like,
Uh-huh.
why? You know?
Yeah, well, in my opinion, we don't lose the essence of what we learned in a previous life. But I know you don't agree with that. But
No, I don't. I definitely have seen that in my life where like there's certain things where I just knew how to do them and I
yeah,
couldn't really explain why. But but a lot of my problem with it is so many of the lessons that I've learned are complex and like it take like the longer that I'm alive, like the more that I'm able to learn and the more that I'm able to build on what I already have learned. Then at the end of it, I'm just going to forget all like most of this and then I'm just going to start over from scratch and then have some of these like residual things in the background, but then I have to mostly start from scratch again. Though, like I do agree, like there's some things that we have like kind of innate. I just don't feel like it's a big enough thing, is what I'm saying.
like the kid who at 3 years old is playing Bach and Beethoven on the piano or something, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Um,
So that doesn't like
so, well, I think, my opinion is that just like they could do that on the piano, they can retain the essence of their life lessons from previous lives. But, anyways,
it could be true.
people can decide for themselves, you know, and most people do anyways. They're gonna, believe one way or another or not at all. But yeah, I don't know. It could be right. I think your message actually is an important message because, like we've discussed before, people try to avoid this kind of stuff because, oh, it's negative, right? And I have to admit to the audience I was a little bit reluctant at first, until we talked a little bit, and then I read your book to do this because I didn't want it to turn out to be, negative or fear mongering or whatever. But that it turns out that those were unfounded. So those were my own fears that I had to deal with a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to like scare anybody, though. I mean, I will be honest, like when I first started coming to these conclusions, yeah, I was pretty depressed about it. But like as time has gone on, I've sort of just seeing it more as just like an inconvenience. I have to like put up this psychic protection for myself. Whenever I go to sleep, I have to sometimes I'll feel something around me. I'll feel some sort of entity come, and then I'll have to like go to battle against it. But now like I said, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I do think it's very important information, and I feel like it's the most important thing that I could share with anybody because we
Yeah.
haven't really talked about the reincarnation trap concept, but it fits in really really well with this idea of parasitic entities feeding off of our energy.
I have to ask you this. We discussed, I'll tell the audience, we discussed some of this stuff in email and stuff a little bit, and the reincarnation trap. And you've probably already considered this, but I just have to ask it again and hear it from you, is have you considered that your conclusions that you've come to are the trap instead, to keep you away from the light or whatever, so to speak? Have you considered that, or did you consider that in the beginning maybe? And, anyways.
Well, I think the perspective is that if the idea, I mean, we really been touched on what the trap is, but so I don't know how well people are going to be versed with that. But if it's true that it's all love and light and it's all good, then those on the other side are going to have sympathy for me for being scared of it and not wanting to go to the light, right? So once I'm out in my own realm, outside of this place, this construct or whatever, and then maybe I'm looking in and I'm saying, "Oh, it's all good." They can come. They're gonna welcome me back, right? Like if it's all love and light, yeah.
Well, and most of the vast majority of NDE experiences describe it somewhat like that.
But I don't also put aside the idea that I could be deceived by anything. Like we always have to like question. We have to question everything. I mean, this is how I came to these conclusions. Is just by questioning everything that anybody tells me, and just like
I agree 100%. Question everything. I tell everybody that. And that's even actually in I come from a religion background, a Christian background, so I know the scriptures really well. And that's even in the scriptures, I think there's a scripture that says something to the effect to try the spirits, don't just trust anything. So it's even in there, but it's in all the ancient wisdom in some form or another that I've read, that I've come across. And I've studied, Buddhism, the Vedas, the Egyptian text, and what we have of them anyways, and all that kind of stuff too. So uh, I don't claim to be an authority on it, but I'm probably better read on that stuff than most, I would say. So
so. What would you say your overall perspective is then, based on all that reading?
perspective of
Just the idea of what we're talking about with the spirits.
there's a saying, you've probably heard it before, as above, so below. Um,
Hmm.
So we have positive and negative entities or human beings here, right? And you have people trying to work for good and do good things, and you have people with an agenda. They're, trying to manipulate people, and seems like government seems to attract a lot of those types of people, and so on. And so why wouldn't that be the same on the other side? You're going to have good and positive and negative entities on the other side too, in my opinion.
Well, do you see good in government?
Not much anymore. I think there was good intentions originally in some of it, but
I don't see any good in the government, and I just feel like it's an entire top down thing. Like the those feeding like I don't even think that people in the government are like they're not decision makers. I feel like they're being told what to do, and I just feel like it's like an overarching system that's coming down. Whatever you want to call them, aliens, entities. This is just what I think that they are in some way manipulating everything going
you
on.
feel like those in government, or at least the majority, are being influenced by aliens or negative entities or what have you.
Yeah.
That's
I
probably
know it
a
sounds kind of crazy, but that's just my
eh,
perspective.
not to me. I'm not a big fan of government, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of that going on there. I used to be involved in politics years ago, and I got out of it because it was just disgusting. And but I know people who have got into politics, and even some of them who made it into the Congress, who have very good intentions and either got out of it or they got on the gravy train, because they couldn't get nothing done. If you go up there and you have good intentions and you want to get something done, you got, it's a give and take, well, okay, we'll do this for you, but you got to do this for us type of thing. And that's how they lure them in. And so, it's a choice. And the ones who wouldn't put up with that, uh, you know, they do a couple of terms and then they can't get anything done. And so and then their opponent says, look, he didn't get anything done. But I'm going to go up there and fix it, right? Which never happens. So I tend to agree with you for the most part on government. But I don't think, see, the other thing is the way I look at government now is it doesn't affect my life that much. I mean, it does in some areas, of course, with economy and inflation and taxes and all that garbage, but in general, what the president of the United States does doesn't affect my life from day to day that much. And I'm a firm believer that if we want to change some of this stuff, that it's the people got to do it. And I've been telling that people that for years. It's like, why are because everybody says, oh, we got to get the government to do this. We got to get it's like, you can't get the government to do nothing unless it's going to make them some money or, you know, get them reelected or whatever. So anyways, I didn't mean to get too far.
One of my major gripes with just people like the new age teachings and people's general perspective. Everybody's just waiting for someone to come save them. Like no one's coming to save you. I feel like this is like a lot of their strategy also. Like this is what the Christians teach, right? They teach you to turn the other cheek and to wait for Jesus to come back, right? Just keep on waiting. You just wait while meanwhile they're like moving chess pieces into checkmate on us. They whatever they can do to get you to sit on your hands and not do anything. That's basically what they're going to teach you. That's any teaching that says like don't do anything, just wait. I'm very mistrustful of this because it's like you said, we have to do something. There's no one individual that can do anything about it. I mean, it's just like you said, you can't get any changes actually made if you even try to go that route.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a collective thing, and who knows if we're ever going to make it there. My whole thing is I'm at a point where I don't really believe that I can change anything on any kind of bigger scale, except maybe I can get the message across to a few people like, hey, I trusted these entities and they screw with my life like significantly and caused me all these problems. So I'd suggest you be very careful and whatever if you're dealing with anything like that. And then my second thing is upon passing to the other side, I don't want to come back here. I just want to get out of here. I want to go somewhere else. I don't like the way that the lessons happen here. I wouldn't create it that way. I wouldn't like teach the dog to stop peeing on the carpet by maiming it. I don't think that's a good way to teach people things. Um, I mean, there's a few like I can see like from that like you brought it up the Tom, what's his name?
Tom Campbell.
Who worked with Tom Campbell. I can see some of his perspectives where, like, yeah, there are parts of this place that do like kind of entice me and make me interested in it. Like this whole idea of like you can't just be coddled like because you see people who are born as children of billionaires and they're lousy people generally like they're apathetic they have superiority complex for no reason like when you're just given things you don't appreciate them and that's one thing about this place is you come here you have to work for everything and you're not really given much And I mean, so a part of me like sees like that's an interesting challenge, but then it's like, well, if you screw up, like you could end up like being, even if you didn't screw up, you could end up as one of these children abducted, and who knows what kind of things are happening to them, like being sexually abused, or you could end up like, I don't know, if you don't learn your lessons, just like horrible things happen to you over and over. I don't really like that part of it personally.
Are you familiar with Neville Goddard at all? I'm a big fan of his. I don't necessarily agree with him 100% on everything, but he helped me a lot to learn how to manifest, purposefully. And I'm not an expert at it. And I'm skeptical of the people who teach. It's like, oh yeah, everything's just wonderful, yeah, I just changed my mind, and money started showing up in the mailbox, and that kind of stuff. But
That's definitely happened to me.
yeah,
And yeah, Neville Goddard, yeah, I mean, I definitely have had experiences where I was testing that, and yeah, it kind of happened. I just like sometimes it'll work, but then other times, and there's no reason for it. I have a lot to say about this, but I almost feel like there's something up there like that has like a button that it can press. It's like, okay, we're gonna allow you this to happen now. A lot of these people who like they teach it on YouTube and they'll be like, well, it's not working for you. You're doing it wrong. Like, I would tell people, don't necessarily believe that that's true, because the first time that I tried to manifest something, I manifested it exactly as I envisioned it, and it was totally shocking.
yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing. And then I tried to replicate this like hundreds and hundreds of times afterwards, and I couldn't do it. So I don't think there's necessarily a rhyme or a reason to it.
Here's what I think on that for the most part, and I'm not, and I've gone through a lot of different thought processes in this too, because I've had the same problem. It works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. When I first tried it, I'm really I have a 13-acre farm, and I'm into permaculture and regenerative agriculture and
That's
that kind of stuff.
awesome.
I love that kind of stuff. And so when I first started trying to manifest, they say, oh, let's try something simple, right? So I had planted a garden, and I thought, I ought to be able, if this really works, I ought to be able to make those seeds grow right now. I shouldn't have to wait, da da da, blah blah blah. And so I I got focused on it, and it didn't, and I didn't think about it much. I just tried to conjure up the feeling real, and I think I did, and was laughing and smiling about it, and I even was going, yeah, well, if it doesn't work, who cares, big deal, but whatever. And I went back a couple hours later, and I had a whole bunch of plants popped up that shouldn't have popped up yet. And I was like, wait a minute, did I plant something here before and I forgot about it? That kind of stuff. And I've had other stuff like that happen too. And here's what I think gets in the way. And I'm not saying that it couldn't be, like you said, somebody's up there going, well, let him have it this time, but maybe not that.
That's just how it felt to me. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know that that's what's happening. It's kind of how I feel
I
about it.
think it's our subconscious, because we get programmed as children, mostly before the age of 7. They say that the science says that children's brains are in the theta state before the age of 7, which is the meditative state, or the state that your brain's in when you're dreaming at night. And so they're just a sponge. You're just a sponge. They're sponge. There's no filters. Everything that they see in their environment around them, and their parents and teachers or whoever they're around, just soaks in like a sponge. And so you have these subconscious memories, or programs, I call them, that just run, and that's why sometimes people, it's like you see somebody go off the handle, and they're acting like a 3-year-old. It's like, yeah, because that probably is a program that got programmed in there when they were 3 years old, and they're reacting to an adult situation like a 3-year-old, instead of trying to do it maturely. But and so I think that's the problem that people have with manifestation. You have all these, what's in your heart. People say, well, what's in your heart? That's your subconscious to me. That's what you may consciously say, oh, I believe this, I'm doing this, and I've been doing my affirmations and my visualization and this and da da da. But you have some subconscious memories or programs that are blocking that. So there's a conflict there, like you said.
It's a quick story about my first time I manifested anything that I'd be really interested to hear why this happened, because it conflicts a little bit with what you were just saying. Well, maybe I'll just tell it to you and then we'll see what you have to say. this was like just after I first had my spiritual awakening, my first one. I had this like lifestyle coach about teaching me about visualization, and he was telling me like whatever if I want something to happen, just like visualize it as vividly as I can, and then just see what happens. Well, I know that athletes can do it. I know that there's been some success and studies of people like who have visualized themselves shooting free throws and then improved, or visualize themselves lifting weights. And so I knew like there might be something to it, but I didn't have any experience with it. So one day I'm at the card room and I'm playing poker, and I stand up and I go walk outside. I'm like, all right, let me try this visualization thing. This is the first time I tried it. I didn't have like any kind of opinion as to whether it would work. I was like, well, if it worked, that'd be kind of cool. And so I visualized myself walking back down, sitting back down at the table. I visualized the color of the felt, visualized myself getting dealt cards and liking them. And I visualized myself putting money into the pot. And then I visualized specifically another player also putting his money into the pot. And then the cards are getting dealt across the table, and my hand's getting better and better. And I'm betting again, and he's putting in his money. And then by the last card, I'm putting all the money in, and so is he. And then I envision myself turning my cards over and having the best hand, and then the dealer pushing the chips to me. And then at the end, I thought, well, that could all just happen anyway. So let me just throw this idea in there. I visualized him throwing his cards and cursing at the dealer. So I was like, let me just see. So I go in and I sit down, and one hand goes by, and the very next hand, it played out exactly as I visualized it, like to a T, even with him throwing the cards and swearing at the dealer, like exactly. After that, I was like blown away because I'd never seen anything like that. I didn't know anything like that was possible. And I was able to successfully do this on two other occasions where I just went outside, visualized the scene, sat back down. Immediately, it happened like that. After that third time, all succeeding times, I would do the visualization. I'd go and sit down, and instead of my getting the cards to beat the specific player that I'm visualizing against, the cards were dealt in such a way that the guy that I was trying to win the pot from, he got dealt an unbeatable hand, and I got dealt a second best hand that could not avoid losing money to him. And this must have happened like 7 or 8 more times each time I tried to do this visualization. I stopped doing it because it wasn't helping me. Uh, I don't think that I don't know that my beliefs had much to do with any of this, because obviously it worked, and then it worked in reverse. So I don't know. I don't think my beliefs were involved. Something else was going on.
Well, that's the thing with the subconscious. Some of those beliefs you don't even remember them. You don't know. I think that may be account for some of it. I'm not saying that accounts for all of it. Now that I think about it, now that you say that, I never tried to grow seeds like that again. I don't know why. I should have been doing that, you know, big time. I just thought that was so cool. But yeah, I don't have an explanation for that either. So
I've tried so many times, like I've done so much testing with manifestation, and my conclusion is that there is there's an energy with everything that's involved in like success or not. And if you are sort of flowing with the energy, and the energy is available for a particular thing to happen, then it's more likely to happen. Because there's a certain thing like that they teach you about like sleep, where if you have trouble sleeping, they say, don't continue lying in the bed while you're awake. Your mind forms an association with the bed. What I've come to the conclusion of is that it's when you're laying there and you're not sleeping, but you're wanting to sleep, it's hurting the energy. It's messing with the energy. So that's why like a lot of people, or personally for me, I've experienced this where I can go and away from my bed and like go on the couch and then fall asleep like that, because the energy is different on the couch than on the bed, where I had these sort of like ideas that were getting in the way. And it's the same thing with like if you're constipated, like and sitting on one toilet, go sit on a different toilet or change the atmosphere, and then the energy changes. And I definitely think there's something to do with it like that. But it's like you said, where it's like there's all these different things going on, and who's to say which is what? And I kind of feel like they're also we have this additional factor of they're messing with us. Like I definitely feel like they're messing with us. Have you tried just like asking reality for things?
oh yeah, yeah,
And so that's a legitimate thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like I'll ask it for things, and then it will paint me into a corner, like Where it's like, okay, well, if you want this thing, then you got to do this other thing that you really don't want to do. It's done this to me like multiple times where it's like I feel like my back's against the wall. It's like, why are you doing this to me? Like, why is it if I want, why are you trying to make me do this in order to get this? Like what's going on here? That's why I feel like whatever's up above controlling thing, like they're messing with me or something. And I think that most people probably look at that like, oh, they're doing something wrong. And I thought that a long time, and I went through so many iterations of thinking, okay, well, if I'm doing that wrong, maybe I need to change this, or I need to change this, or I need to change this. And after years of that, I just decided, no, it's not what's going on. I'm not like, I can't be because it's worked in these, for instances.
Yeah, well, yeah, it puts you into you constantly second guessing yourself if it's not working for some reason. And so, yeah, and that can be a pretty negative loop to be in. If you if you get into that
Exactly,
kind.
because then you're thinking along the lines of like, oh, well, nothing's working. So then you're setting it up, so the energy up for that nothing else is going to work because you're thinking along those lines, right?
Yeah, yeah, I don't necessarily agree that there's entities that are messing with us, but I'm not saying that there couldn't be, you know. So it's just a matter of perspective. I ask the universe for stuff all the time, and I've taken an attitude, and it's taken me a while to really cultivate this attitude where I can do it most of the time, and I'm still not perfect at it. That all good things flow to me, and and money flows to me, and this and that, and that's changed my life quite a bit. It's still not perfect. I wish I was better at it, and I oftentimes will second guess myself. Okay, well, yeah, maybe I'm doing something wrong, or maybe or maybe it's one of those subconscious things coming up that I've buried so deep I don't even remember it. Stuff like that. And then I think, well, what if that's the limiting belief that I think it's a subconscious thing that's, stuff. You can take it, endlessly.
Yeah, so
So,
that my perspective is you were doing everything right, and then when something went wrong, that's them messing with you. That's my perspective.
yeah.
That's them interrupting your flow. Because I like playing poker, being at the poker table. I've been in this flow state for like many times in my life, and sometimes it just knocked me right out of it, just like for no reason. I don't have any other explanation for it. Like, and I don't like this idea of blaming myself where it's like, oh, this is some past programming because we're just putting all the faith in the system, and I feel like I should be putting my faith in myself. You know,
It sounds like a multi-level marketing seminar, just trust the plan, just trust the plan.
it does, right? It's like an agenda.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm a longtime martial artist. I started in martial arts when I was 15. I trained and I taught and I competed. I trained MMA in my later years. You know,
Oh wow.
we were doing MMA before the term was coined MMA. But and there's times when I was just in the zone and I just knew I was going to win, whenever I was competing. And then there's other times where I was like, yeah, I had a little bit of doubt, wasn't sure, da da da. And sometimes I won and sometimes I didn't when it was like that. So it's kind of interesting. But even the scriptures teach that, if you have, you can move a mountain if you have the faith of a grain of mustard seed. But if you have if you have the doubt of a mustard seed, that can derail you. So I don't know. Um,
I feel like taking that as far as we possibly take it. All I've seen is it just like the further that I take that, it just eventually lets me down. It doesn't like could I be doing something wrong? I suppose, but I don't.
I firmly believe that you can try too hard though too, and that derails you. You know, you can be
I've
too.
been through that also, where like okay, all right, and then I stopped trying for a while, and then I started trying a little bit, and then it's like I also had this experience trying to manifest it, and I'll be trying for like months, and I'll try, and I'll find that each time it's like, oh, you were just off the mark by a little bit this way, and then I tried a little bit more. It's like, oh no, you tried just a little bit too hard that time, and then next time, oh, you didn't try hard enough, and it's always like trying to hit this impossible mark. And I've just seen this play out so many times in my experience of trying this. And that's why I say things like it feels like there's somebody like with a bare hand on a button, something trying to stop me from doing it because it doesn't make sense that it would fail so many times. But I don't know. That's just my perspective.
Yeah, yeah. We're running up on the time here, so is there a message that you want to give the audience before we go?
I mean, I think I have a really positive message. Like, I think the reincarnation trap, I suggest everyone look into that and understand, like, at least understand the perspective. Like, whether you agree with it or not, I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but understand, like, that this is a growing minority of people are coming to believe this. And if it's right, you stand, you have a lot to lose. Like, you have hundreds or potentially thousands more lifetimes here. Whereas potentially, and I don't know if this is true, but you could have opportunity to go to a more freer realm where like life doesn't have all these challenges that you deal with. And to be discerning of the spirit realm. Don't just trust these entities like don't like I did. Otherwise you end up with all these problems. And I wrote that book. It's called How to Cure Any Illness. And if you want to check that out, that's on Amazon.
I'll link it in the description.
I would say it's for people who like say you've been to doctors and they basically tell you they don't know what's wrong with you, or they're just like they're just trying to treat your symptoms and you don't know, like they're never planning on healing you. Like, you're gonna get so many like little pointers and tips as to what to do to improve your health situation.
I can highly recommend it, folks. I've read it. There's a lot of good advice in there.
That's it. I might start a YouTube channel. I have like 40 subscribers, but I don't have any videos. But if people want to subscribe to that, right now it's just titled Peter Jennings dash How to Cure Any Illness.
That's your YouTube channel?
That's my name. That's my name on YouTube.
Okay. And is there any other way? Are you open to people contacting you any other way, like through email or through Facebook or anything like that?
Materially speaking at protonmail.com, I think.
Okay, I'll link that in the description
It's at
also.
the bottom of the book. Or I'll look in the comments, and if people have questions, I'll answer whatever questions.
Okay. Okay, well, Peter, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, I knew we weren't going to be able to cover all the ground in this period. And if people are interested, we'll do it again and get more into the soul trap stuff and that kind of thing and go from there. I appreciate you taking the time out.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, and this was an enjoyable conversation. If you want to do part two, you can get into that twin flame. I have the most bizarre twin flame story that I think people would be interested in. But we'll see how this one does.
Oh yeah, yeah. I want to hear that. You don't have that written down anywhere, huh?
It's so odd, and it takes a lot of building up and explaining because there's so many like tiny details that sort of lead up to it, and I that's why I haven't put it down. But maybe you'll get the exclusive.
Okay. All right. All right, my friend. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
All right, see you.